Ago, a shadowy figure lurked in the dark alleys of London, preying on innocent victims. His identity haunts us to this day. I'm Heather Graham. Join me as we uncover the view from hell.
You won't be satisfied by this.
The story of Jack the Ripper is one of the most famous unsolved murder mysteries of all time. Trying to uncover his identity has fascinated us for over 100 years. Directed by the Hughes Brothers and starring Johnny Depp, Ian Holm, Robbie Coltrane, and myself, From Hell brings a very human face to an inhumane series of events.
I was always attracted to the story of Jack the Ripper. I was always fascinated with the case.
For people who aren't aware of the Jack the Ripper case, they never did catch the murderer. And this movie's about 5 prostitutes in that area who were witness to a marriage of their friend to a mysterious guy. And for some reason, their friend ends up missing and they start getting picked off one by one.
It's a very kind of complicated and interesting theory about who he was. And you meet a lot of characters along the way and you wonder who it is.
Sometime this evening, a bank teller was murdered in George Yard.
That doesn't sound much out of the ordinary.
It was the way she was done, Inspector. It was the way that she was done that cries out for a man of your talents.
Inspector Aberline, based on a real guy, was assigned to Whitechapel to investigate the case and try and crack it. And who the Ripper is.
I believe this was done by someone with at least a working knowledge of dissection.
Aberline has these visions, and he has this kind of special gift where he has flashes of what is going to happen in his dreams.
Sure face. You know, they used to burn men like you alive.
Aberline, doing his investigation, meets, in fact, all of the prostitutes and Mary Kelly.
You're Mary Kelly, is that right?
That's wrong.
I want you and your friends over to the streets until we can sort this thing out.
Mary Kelly. I'm a prostitute, and I live in London in this slum called Whitechapel. Myself and all my friends are on the brink of starvation. We're just trying to get through the day, and different friends are being killed by Jack the Ripper. And I help Johnny Depp in his investigation.
He becomes especially close with Mary Kelly and finds out through his investigation that she is next in line to be visited by the Ripper, and it becomes more than just the investigation. It becomes emotional for him. He falls in love.
Your vision's about me.
Most definitely. At least one of her organs was removed. Is it possible, sir, that the killer is an educated man?
I must admit, if I were you, I'd look for someone with a thorough knowledge of human anatomy.
Could have been anyone. These girls might have very well known the guy. And at the same time, it could have been some major conspiracy. It's impossible to know.
He's not merely killing. He's punishing them.
He's out of his mind.
The great thing about this movie is it's just this great mystery, and it's really smart, and you don't really know, who it is until the very end.
Jack the Ripper's not finished.
Who was Jack the Ripper? A butcher, a doctor, a social miscast? There's so many theories, it's hard to separate them from the actual police work.
Well, Jack the Ripper is a man, they think, that murdered 5 women. They haven't found him, and they never will find him. So it's still a mystery, and that's why people are still fascinated by Jack the Ripper, because they can't find the man.
It's like the Titanic. It's one of those great mysteries that nobody's ever solved.
Well, the Scotland Yard files on the Whitechapel murders cover 11 murders beginning in April 1888 and ending in February 1891. Now, all these murders weren't committed by the same hand. What we're looking at with Jack the Ripper, the canonical 5 murders committed by the Ripper were between the end of August 1888 and the 9th of November.
He was, on record, the first serial killer of his time.
One day, men will look back and say that I gave birth to the 20th century.
You're not going to see the 20th century.
Jack the Ripper, the name came from one of the letters. At the time of the murders, when it started getting all that press, all these letters started coming in. So Jack the Ripper, the name, first appeared in one of the letters, which most of the Ripperologists believe are all fake.
They're rubbish, you know that.
Scotland Yard has something like 230 letters supposedly from Jack the Ripper, of which, ironically enough, that's where we get our title. The only one that is believed to be legitimate, which is in the British Museum today, it was a letter that came with half of a human kidney, and they did believe it was from Jack, and it had the return address, which is very crucial to our film.
From hell. Well, at least they got the address right. I believe this was done by an educated man, such as a doctor.
An educated man? That's preposterous. Probably a tradesman or a butcher.
Possibilities as theories as to who Jack the Ripper was go in all directions. There's a very famous letter called the Detective Littlechild letter, where he says they caught Jack the Ripper, and because he was a doctor, they gave him bail, thinking he would be too decent to skip bail. But he was an American doctor. He, sure enough, skipped bail, went to Paris, and ended up back in America, where repeatedly he continued murdering in America. And the doctor's name in that case was Dr. Tumblety.
Well, one thing's for certain. An Englishman didn't do it.
My own personal theory is that on the night of the double murder, we have the best clue ever, and we know that he's going into the neighborhood where they're trying to find him. He must therefore have been someone who fitted into this neighborhood, someone who didn't stand out from the crowd. Aaron Kosminski, a poor Polish Jew living in the heart of the area, who was apprehended effectively in December 1888, was placed into Stepney Workhouse Infirmary, and from there he went to an asylum.
There's several theories on who Jack the Ripper is, and the one that's most popular is the one we chose to do, which is the world conspiracy, they call it.
There's too many odd facts to reconcile it not being somebody of influence. For 2 weeks, the London police in that area were on what's called high alert. The day after what would become the final murder, the London police are taken off high alert. But did someone know there weren't going to be any more murders? There's all kinds of facts that lead to the conclusion that there is somebody of influence.
You have other theories they're doing, like an American doctor, or you have a school teacher, and there's, I suppose there's like 30 or 40 of them basically, but you can't make all the theories in one movie.
Well, that proves it.
Whoever created the name Jack the Ripper was a marketing genius, because you can say that name to anyone, anywhere in the world today, and it will immediately conjure up vivid images of foggy, gaslit streets and an untold horror stalking his unsuspecting prey through the back streets and alleyways of the East End of London.
Whether commenting on civil unrest and menace to society, or highlighting social issues in the heist movie Dead Presidents, or theorizing about Jack the Ripper, the Hughes Brothers do everything with a sense of conscience and style all their own.
At a young age, I remember hearing the name Jack the Ripper and never knowing who he was. I just remember that name, Ripper. Like, what kind of name is that, What initially caught our interest about the Jack the Ripper legend was when we were little, we saw this In Search of episode with Leonard Nimoy where they chronicle a lot of things, but this episode was about Jack the Ripper, and it scared us. I just remember it stuck in our head, the fog and all that, the cape and the knife and the women. And like everyone, we always had a fascination with it, kind of like the JFK situation where it was never solved.
He didn't finish. He won't be satisfied by this.
One of the interviewers asked the Hughes Brothers, they said, well, why are you guys, you're from the street doing this period English piece, you guys are American, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, did Steven Spielberg need to hang out with aliens in order to make E.T.? He's like, we're doing a film about street violence, and that's what our other films have been about.
This film fits into the same style of films we like to make because it's still violent, and you deal with the streets, it's a whole set of different rules. But when you're talking about 20th century ghetto and then 19th century ghetto, they're both pretty similar in a way, just about the same tool. There's knives instead of guns.
Background, and action.
There's more than one then.
There's always a theme, so I get my head going.